Hello chums and welcome back to another Cozy Books and Knits podcast. It's lovely to see you again. Thank you for joining me. If we've not met before, my name is Eleanor. I'm known as Cozy Books and Knits online. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Ravelry, and I absolutely love to get cozy and chat about all of my favourite hobbies. I love to read, knit, create art, and I live in the countryside with my two cats, my husband-to-be, generally pursuing the coziest life I possibly can, and it's lovely to have you along for the journey. So I'd love it if you'd grab a nice warm cozy drink. Today I'm having a cup of tea and let's chat about everything I've been working on this month. So we'll start with all of the knitting and then later we'll talk about what I've been reading. So now let's talk about my finished objects, and I've got one finished object this month, and that is my Sophie hood. I talked about this in my last podcast when I'd done one side and the hood, and now I have finished. It's just hard to show because it's very long. I knit the largest size and I was slightly off gauge, so if I was under gauge. I don't even want to think about how long this would be if I'd have been using the correct yarn or even over gauge. So that's something to bear in mind, that this came out a little shorter than it should have done as the largest size. In the sizing, the hood stays the same size and then it's the tails that carry on. So that is good for you to know. I knit this in, let's pop it on for you. I haven't actually blocked this because I was just so excited to wear it, so I probably should just even out the seam on the top. I knit this with the Rowan Alpaca Classic, which I believe is now called the Rowan Alpaca Cotton. And this is so cozy. It's just what I need because I love a nice cozy scarf, but I never really wear hats because I don't want to mess up my hair. And often when I'm out and about and I'm sort of in and out of shops and things, I don't like to wear a hat because I'll get too warm. But the lovely thing about this is we can just throw the hood back and then it's like you've just got this big cozy scarf and nothing around your head, but then it really keeps you warm and protects your ears and your face from the cold. So I love this so much. I feel like I'll probably end up knitting more of these. They're absolutely perfect. And I was never on the Sophie scarf shawl hype until the Sophie hood came out, and I thought it was a perfect alternative to like a balaclava to get the same sort of warmth but to just feel a little more casual. So I absolutely love this project. This is definitely one of my favourite things and I've been wearing it so much, and I get compliments on it, and I love the yarn. I'm going to show you a little bit closer up. It has the most beautiful halo. This is such a soft yarn. It has a really beautiful halo, as you can see there. It's an alpaca yarn and it's a blown yarn with a cotton centre, so it's just so soft and cozy. It's lovely around my neck, which is wonderful. Because there's zero itch. It's very comparable to like the Drops Air or the Camarose Sniffug, I think is what it's called. It's just a lighter gauge, and this is what was accessible to me. It was on sale in my local yarn store, so I decided to pick this up instead of those thicker gauge ones and just work under gauge, because with a hood it doesn't matter that much. I think I added a few extra rows to the length of the hood because I was under gauge, and I knit this to the depth, not the row requirement. And yeah, it's just been one of my favourite projects of the winter, I think. And I'm sure I've been using this a lot recently because it's still chilly over here, and I'm sure I will use it a lot next winter as well. So that is the only finished object I have. I was wrapping up a lot of my Christmas presents last month, so I've been starting quite fresh this month, which is nice. So I will talk you through my works in progress now. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is my storm sweater for my husband-to-be. You've seen this in the last couple of podcasts, but I've made some good progress on it this month. is really quite big, so it's hard to show, but I am halfway down the first sleeve. I have most of the body. The pattern length said to essentially this last rib panel to finish that and then do the hem, so that was the end of the ball, and then I'm going to put this on hold whilst I do the sleeves, because I've been told that Drops Charisma, which is what this is knit in, grows quite a lot, so I don't want to start the I would imagine I would add extra length because my partner is 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", so, but given that I've been told Drops Charisma grows a lot in blocking, I think I'm not going to put the hem on this until he's tried it on properly, and I might even do a block of it before I bind off the sleeves, or before I do the ribbing on the sleeves and the body. But yeah, this is coming along nicely. This has been my sort of watching TV, reading, mindless project, because the texture is quite simple, but it's really fun. But I would really like to get this finished within the next couple of weeks, so he might at least get a little bit of opportunity to wear it before we come into spring. I'm really enjoying this. I love the way it looks on camera. It's a really fun pattern to have all those different textures, and I really can't wait to see him in it, because I've never knit a whole garment for another person before. I've knit him socks and he loves those, but I think it will be really special to see him wearing a finished garment. The next one I'm going to talk about, we've talked about a couple of times previously, and I've actually made some progress on it, only a little bit, so I'll talk about it briefly. But that is my heirloom quilt cardigan, and I have started seaming this. So I now have 2 front panels, which I think they're going to go this way around, maybe, I can't remember. Got 2 front panels, and then I've started seaming my back panel, but I've just started a little bit, so I've not made loads of progress on that. But I've made a vow to myself after my frog or finish video that I made a couple of weeks ago, that this is a project that I really want to finish soon, because I feel like this will be great in the spring and summer evenings, just to throw over dresses. I feel like it will be great because it will function like a wearable quilt, and that's exactly what I want it for. This fabric is so drapey, it's going to be lovely and soft, so I'll be really sad if this one languishes and I don't finish it. So I've made a bit of a vow, and the other day we were watching some Supernatural and I just sat and did some seaming, so I think I'm going to again promise myself to make more progress on this. I would love, by the time we next chat, to have done all of the seaming. I think that would be a great goal. So just again, this is the Heirloom Quilt Cardigan by Katrin Seeberger, and I am knitting in Drops Soft Tweed in the colours Spinach Pie, Carrot Cake, Grizzly Bear, Marzipan and Guacamole. And it's making a lovely sort of autumnal earth-toned palette, and I'm really enjoying that. So it would have been lovely to have it finished for autumn, which was my intention with all of the autumnal colours, but it didn't happen, and I'm just slowly working on this one. This has been quite a long-term whip now, but I can see this coming together. So seaming has just been my blocker, but I've made some good progress on the seaming this month. So the next project I'm going to talk about is my current sock whip, and I always like to have a sock whip on the go. And that is the Quilty Cabin socks by Horse Feather Fibre Arts, and I am knitting this up in, this is the Knit Pro Symphony yarn, and then the contrast colour is Drops Nord, and I am loving this really high contrast of, I mean, this yarn is like black with little flecks of burgundy and grey, and then this is just a really true cream colour, and I'm absolutely loving that. Now this one is on an inappropriately long piece of barber cord right now, because I'm trying to perfect my colourwork tension, because I love knitting socks and I have my vanilla recipe down completely. But the problem is I have a really wide instep, which makes it very hard to get colourwork socks over my heel, because the sort of diagonal, if this is a foot shape, the diagonal between my heel and the top of my foot is really wide. So I really struggle to get colourwork socks, but I don't want to go up a size because then it'll be too big on the rest of the foot. So I did this in my usual size, just using a 2.5 metre and being really careful about my tension. And I'm really happy with my tension because I think it looks really good. It looks really even, but I'm also getting a really decent stretch on them. However, it is a really snug fit to get this over. So I've paused at the heel, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast on the second sock and do my normal recipe for the cuff, and then increase just before the colourwork to the next size up, do the colourwork and increase back down, because I know Charlotte Stone from Stone Knits has done that in quite a few of her patterns, and that worked for a pair of my partner's socks that I did before that had a colourwork cuff. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is stick to my normal size for the foot, but just increase and decrease around the colourwork section. So that's what I'm going to do for the second sock, and if that fits a lot better, then I will probably frog this and redo it with that. If not, I may try going up to a 2.75 on the colourwork section, because I'm knitting 2.25 and 2.5 at the moment. But to be honest, I don't think that that would give me enough give in the colourwork section. I think I need a little bit more help than that. So that's what I'm going to try. So hopefully next time we speak, I'll have tried that other stitch count so we can compare them and see how that goes. But I'm really, really happy. I feel like I've really perfected the tension on this sock to get a really good stitch definition with a good amount of stretch. It's just still not quite big enough, but I think if I knit any looser, then I would just lose stitch definition, because that's what's happened to me in the past. So yeah, I'm gonna try that, and hopefully, I wouldn't be mad if I have to frog this, because it didn't take that long to do, and I just really, really, really want to perfect my colourwork sock recipe, because I've got so many that I want to knit in my queue, and I just really, really need to work out what stitch counts work for me, what needle sizes work for me in colourwork, the same way I've done with a vanilla sock. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that one, and it'll be really, really lovely to have these, because I think they'll be a really, really cute pair of socks to wear, and I love this colour choice. So my last whip for this week, I am so excited to show you. This is the Lumme pullover by Sari Nordland, and this is a real dream knit of mine. Ever since I've started knitting, I've wanted to knit a full colourwork yoke sweater, and I've seen a few people knit this one recently, and I have just dreamed of knitting it myself. So I decided to cast it on and give it a go, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I am up to the bottom of the flowers, and there's one more little motif after this, and then the colourwork yoke is done. I haven't tried it on yet, but I am going to try it on, I think, when I run out of this ball of yarn. I'll put it on some tubing and I will try it on. My tension is a little bit, I was worried when I was up to here, but now I've done the flowers, I think my tension looks pretty good on the flowers. I think what was throwing me off is that there are, obviously because it's a circular yoke, there are very rapid increases just above and below this leaf motif. So I think the leaf motif is looking a little bit puckered, but I don't think that's because of the tension. I think it's because of the rapid increases in this section, because when I lay it flat, that looks pretty good to me. So I think when it's blocked and those increases are sort of laid flat, then the tension I think is going to be fine, because generally my stitch definition looks pretty good. Can't see many gaps, and I think all the areas that look like they're puckering to me seem to coincide with increases. So I think when I block the colourwork, when I block the the circular yoke flat, I think the colour work will even out. And I don't think, because yeah, when I sort of stretch it out like that, and that's not really stretching, it's just laying flat, I'm not really seeing the puckering. So I think it's gonna work out. I may have to block it after I've finished the yoke just before I go into the body, just to double check that before I proceed. But I think it's gonna work out, and I think my floats look pretty even on the inside as well, which is so satisfying to see. And I am knitting this in the Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool in the colour Red Squirrel and Oatmeal for my contrast colour. And I love this. I saw Casey at Young Folk Knits do one in a sort of rusty colour with like an off-white contrast colour, and it really did inspire this one, although this is a little more orangey than hers, but I really loved it. And Morgan from Morgan Unravelled did a similar colour combination for the start of hers, but she's frogging that one now, and but you should go and check out that story on her channel, because it's really great the way she talks about that and the colour combination. But she did a very, very similar one with the oatmeal as with the beigey colour as the background and a sort of orangey mustardy colour for the contrast colour. So it's kind of the reverse of this one. But it was those two who really, really inspired me to give it a go, and I'm really, really enjoying this. It's nice to have a really mindful knit, actually, because I think I've been working on quite a lot of stockinette or plain texture recently with my garments, and other garments I was working on or I had on the needles were cable. So it's been really fun to do colour work and to just a few rows a day to sit down, because I mean I absolutely love to read and watch TV and everything at the same time as knitting, but it feels really intentional to sit down with something quite complex where the chart is different every single time, so I have to keep referring back to the chart for each row, rather than just knitting from memory. So it feels really nice to sit down with something very intentional, to just be sitting and paying real attention and close and being very intentional with my stitches. That's a really, really nice thing, I think, and something I've been really enjoying. So this is obviously a slightly slower progress. I've been working on this a couple of weeks now, because I'm only doing a few rows a day, but I'm really enjoying the rows that I am putting into this. So I just need to fold down my collar, finish my yoke, and then I'll be splitting for sleeves. And I can't really see myself getting this done before the weather turns, but it will be ready for next autumn, which will be absolutely lovely because it's so autumnal. Right, so now we're on to the acquisitions part of the video. And I've got a few things to chat through this month. The first thing I actually bought a little while ago, but I totally forgot to show you. And that is some Jameson's Spindrift. My local yarn store recently started stocking this, and I just absolutely loved the texture and the colours of this. So so it's Jameson's Shetland and Spindrift. This is a fingering weight 100% Shetland wool, and I got it in 3 colours. So I got 2 of these, one of this lovely aubergine purple, so dark brown, and then a beigey colour. And with these, I want to make like a pair of cozy bed socks. It's 100% wool with no nylon, so I probably wouldn't wear it out much, and it's not really designed for socks. But these colours, I just wanted to try them out on something smaller before I were to invest in something, but I would love to do like a full colourwork Fair Isle type jumper. So I think once I've done the Lumme and feeling a bit more confident in my colourwork tension, and once I've tried it out on a pair of like bed socks, then I think I'd probably do that. But I loved this little colour palette, and I wanted to try like a 3 colour sock in, again, like a really traditional Fair Isle print. And I've got some ideas for those, which I'll probably talk about in another video when I'm going to cast these on, but I will definitely be doing my quilty cabin socks first. So these probably won't get used for a little bit, but I just couldn't resist picking up some of these to try when I saw my local yarn store had them. So I'm gonna really enjoy giving this a go and seeing how this works up. This is mostly just to test this yarn out really, that I got these, but it's a really, really cute colour combo. I just love that sort of brown with the hint of aubergine, and I'm really excited to give these a go. Next, also from my local yarn store, I picked up a skein of the Symphony Terra hand-dyed sock yarn by Knit Pro. I adored this colour. I'd been eyeing this up for a while, but I really don't need any more sock yarn in my stash because I have a lot, but I absolutely love this sort of beige tone combined with the pink and the burgundy. It's called Cafe Rose, and yes, so as I say, I'd been resisting this even though I absolutely fell in love with it for a while, but I believe it's now been discontinued, so I wouldn't forgive myself if this yarn wasn't available anymore, and I'd missed my chance to get my hands on it because I'd not seen a colour combo like this with the beige and the burgundy before, and I just really, really love the look of it. So this is a 75-25 superwash merino fingering weight sock yarn. So I'm really, really looking forward to using that, but again, that's going to kind of go into my slightly too large stash of sock yarn, and I'm not sure when this will become something, but I couldn't resist adding it to the stash because it's just so beautiful. I mean, this is one of my favourite hanks that I've ever seen because I love the combos, and I really hope it looks as pretty knit up as it does in the hank. Right, so the next couple of things that I acquired are the sort of beginnings of my spring knitting plans, and I will do a whole video on my spring knitting plans when I've actually thought of what they're going to be, but I'd been seeing a couple of people on Instagram knitting garments with hand-dyed yarn, and I was like, oh, I really, really want to try that because I've never knit a garment with a highly variegated hand-dyed yarn, so I really wanted to do that. And last year I knit the Tombow Tee by Florence Miller with a hand-dyed fingering weight yarn, and I loved wearing that in the autumn so much. I got so much wear out of that I definitely knew that I wanted to do a couple more hand knit tees this spring, because when we sort of get into those transitional seasons in the UK, there's definitely a time of year where it's become too hot for jumpers but too cold for t-shirts, so having a t-shirt with a little bit more warmth in it is really lovely. So I picked up the Squishy Sock by Market-Town Yarns. This is the in-house hand-dyed yarn at Yarnworks in Hadley, which is a fabulous shop. They have an online store. If you want to check them out, I will leave a link below, but they have a fabulous online store where they stock lots and lots of hand-dyed yarns and really good quality yarns like Knitting for Olive and Isia, and I just love to go and have a really long mooch and squish of everything. Ooh, that was a bit questionable. I love to squish all the yarns anyway, so I spent a very, very long time choosing this, which is a sort of cream base with, I mean, I feel like there's a bit of a theme here, you can tell what I like, but this is like the spring version, and it's called Rose Garden, and it's like a cream base with this sort of burgundy and pink, and it's got little inclusions of green in there and even some little flecks of blue as well, and this just felt like the perfect little smattering of spring to get me started and in the mood for spring. So this, I got two hanks of this, and this is going to become a little spring tee. I want to do quite a sort of high neck cap sleeve cropped tee, and I did, as I said, the Tombow Tee, which was a very, very similar fit to that, but with a saddle shoulder, so I'd like to do a raglan instead this time, I think. But that fit just like that, and I did that with two skeins last year, so I think this is going to work out quite well. And on a similar vibe, because I've got quite a few different patterns I want to do, and I want to have a few options because I know I'll wear them a lot, I picked up the Rosarius 4 Maya, and I've never worked with this brand before, but I loved this colour. This sort of white with these little flecks of pink and red looked so much fun, and I feel like this would make a really gorgeous, again, little short sleeve high neck jumper. So I picked up 200 grams of these as well, because they come in 50 grams skeins, and that is a 70% merino, 30% polyamide blend. So again, I mean, I probably would have preferred 100% merino for these, but the really, really pretty colours were sock yarns, so I figured my last one I did was in a sock yarn as well with some nylon in it, and that came out really, really nice, so I didn't really mind. And if I'm going to wear them quite a lot, then the merino would then the nylon would probably help with the durability anyway. So yeah, I just absolutely love this colour. So I did intend to only buy one t-shirt quantity, but I couldn't choose between these because this was a bit cheaper, being a commercial product. I believe it's still hand dyed. It says it's still hand dyed, but it is more commercial, so it's a bit more affordable. And then this is, I think, really well priced for a hand dyed yarn, but obviously a bit more to get 2 skeins of this. So I just wanted a couple of different options in a couple of different colours to try a couple of different patterns in my quest to find the perfect little summer tee. So I've got a couple of patterns I'm going to try that I'll talk about in my spring knitting plans video, and share I may even do a knitted tee pattern roundup if that's something you guys would like to see, because I've got so many in my library that I've been collecting up and deciding which ones to try. So you'll see those coming up in some future videos. So that is everything yarn wise for this month. I'm just going to quickly talk about the books that I have read in the last month and what I've been reading. So if you're interested, please stick around. If not, it's been lovely to have you. So here's my stack for the month just gone. The first thing I read since we last spoke was A Dark and Drowning Tide. I got this for Christmas. It's by Alison Saft. It has one of the most beautiful colours I have ever seen in my life, ever. It is just gorgeous. This was added to my wish list, probably about 80% for the cover. I think if not, I probably would have got it on my Kindle, but it was just too pretty not to. So I read this one just after I got it after Christmas. But it's heavily inspired by Jewish folk tales, and it gives a lot of those really similar vibes to books by, say, Ava Reid, Naomi Novik, and I really, really enjoy that folktale vibe. It also has a Sapphic romance and academic rivalry, so a lot of really, really great themes. The story itself, I probably would give about a 3-star, 3.5. It was a really enjoyable adventure, but I didn't love it as much as I love Ava Reid, for example, in her stories. The story felt a little bit more, it was a very sort of, definitely a very folktale-esque story where we're sort of going through this adventure following these characters, and I absolutely loved the politics of the book, which were very, very deeply rooted in Jewish history, but I think the plot line itself was a bit more run-of-the-mill for me. I still really enjoyed it. It was still worth the read, and I loved the vibe of the folklore and the folk tales, but not a new favourite, I'd say. Second up was Five Little Pigs. I always like to start the year with an Agatha Christie. It's just become a little routine of mine, and I really, really enjoyed this one. It's definitely one of my favourites so far. It's got a really, really interesting premise. It's a Poirot, but we follow Poirot investigating a murder case from, I think, about 16 years ago, that's been closed, tried and moved on, but the daughter of the accused comes back and asks Poirot to investigate because she is convinced her mother was innocent all along. So Poirot goes back, reviews the details of the files, and contacts the 5 key players involved. So we actually read each account from each of the 5 characters individually, before he brings them all together at the end. So it almost reads like a bit of a case file, because instead of reading Poirot's perspective going out investigating the case, we're reviewing each of his interviews and then accounts with each character individually, one by one, and we can compare and contrast the differences in their accounts and try and work out where the inconsistencies are and solve it along with Poirot. And then at the end we just get a twist. I really thought I had this one sussed, and then I was totally wrong. So once again, Agatha Christie got me there, but I really enjoyed this one. Then I read, as everyone on Bookstagram did in the end of January, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I was a huge fan of Fourth Wing. I thought Fourth Wing was really fun. The writing, not so good, but the plot, really fun. Iron Flame, I thought the writing was pretty bad. It felt really rushed out, and I didn't enjoy it so much. It felt sort of cluttered and not so well thought out. It really suffered from second book syndrome for me, but I still was interested in, or I was still really excited for Onyx Storm, to see where the story goes from here. And I would say in the first half it was giving Iron Flame, and it felt a bit sort of cluttered. I think Rebecca Yarros falls into this trap where her stories are very sort of piecey, where it's they're at this location, and then they're at this location, and then they're at this location, and then they're at this location. It feels quite sort of disconnected to me, and it doesn't really flow. But then we hit the second half and the plot really started to thicken, and at that point I started really enjoying this again the same way I did the first book. So I really hope Yarros can keep up that momentum for the rest of the series, because I'm now really intrigued to see where this goes. And I would say my overall enjoyment of the series has been really high, but I also would caution readers on the quality of this series. If you're looking for good fun times without thinking too deeply, go for it, it's great. If you are looking for quality literature, maybe not. I think there's other better written romantics out there that still strike that balance between well written and fun. But if I'm going for pure enjoyment factor, this series is still worth going for. And then at the moment I am reading Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I'm about 20% through this. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really intrigued to see where the story goes. I think it probably is hitting the same sort of way as Rebecca Yarros in terms of the writing for me, but I could definitely be convinced by the characters in the storyline in this one, and I am hooked already from 20% in. And then I am also reading The Light in the Flame by Jennifer Armentrout. I am having a really heavy romantasy period at the moment, and I am living for it. This is the second book in the Flesh and Fire series, which is part of the From Blood and Ash universe, and I am trying to catch up on this series before the last Blood and Ash book comes out in June, I believe. So I'm having a lot of fun, although trying to keep track of all of the characters and the details from all of the From Blood and Ash books and then all of the Flesh and Fire books is such a challenge. So I'm leaning very heavily on YouTube summaries and online summaries for this series to remember all of the details, but I'm still having good fun with this one. So that is everything I have to talk about this month, and thank you so much for joining me. It's been absolutely lovely to sit and have a good chat with you. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with me too. I would absolutely love to hear what you're working on at the moment, what you're reading at the moment, and if you've been working on anything whilst watching this video. So thank you for hanging out with me, thank you for getting cozy with me, and I will see you next time. Bye!